Well, hello everyone. Dan Hurd with Dan Hurd Prospecting here. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. I hope to earn your subscription today. I am back here at our peridot mine site. Yes, winter is driving us out, as you can see. I'm back here for one last attempt. I need to collect a few of those peridot xenoliths, those bunches of peridot crystals, to do some final tests on before we open up this mine site and start it in production. So today, I'm digging through snow to find gemstones. Wish me luck, and I hope you enjoy. Now, finding the xenoliths or the gemstones on this snowy talus slope is going to be very difficult. But that's not what this video is entirely about. In fact, that's a very small part of this video. I'm grabbing some stones here today to do some final testing over the winter. Now that winter is kicking us out of being out here in the outdoors, I've got some tests to do indoors. I need some rocks for that today, and I'm going to show you. Back in part 2, yes, I showed you how the jig worked for separating the gemstones from the basalt. I showed you crushing the basalt to free up the gemstones. I talked a little bit about setting them off to get faceted. Well, today, I'm going to take the results from last video, part 2 of opening a gem mine, and I'm going to take those results and start building off them. Whoa, slippery snow. I gotta be careful out here today. Some of the things we are going to do today. We are going to check out magnetic separation. Basalt is slightly magnetic. Can I use that property to separate the basalt from the peridot? I'm going to check out some acidic processing. I have done that before. It hasn't worked in the past. We'll try it again. A couple other things I need to try. Let's see. I need to try tumbling some of the stones to make it easier for the faceter to determine which stones are good for faceting and which ones are not. Sure, there's more that I'm going to come up with during this video. Plus, I just received back the first test lot from the cutter. You gotta see them. They're amazing. I'll show you lots here in this video about the final cuts that I got and explain some of the flaws, some places that we're gonna work on, and just talk all about cutting these gemstones. This will be the final episode of opening a gem mine this season, because as you can see, winter's upon us. Come spring, there should be lots more excitement on the gem mine. Now, what can I find in that snow? Yes, it is slippery out here, so I have to be careful. I just need 3 or 4 nests to play with. I crushed all the ones I had before. Now, I do have the generator, jackhammer, feather and wedges, everything for breaking down rocks, but I don't think that's the smart way to go today. Not with all this snow on the ground. It's treacherous out here. I think the smart way to go today is find rocks that I can carry easily and roll them over to see if they have nests underneath them that will work for the experiments I need. There's a nest, but nope, I need bigger nests to play with. I use the term nest because my mentor used the term nest. They're called xenoliths. They're chunks of the Earth's mantle that were brought up with magma and hardened in these basalts. So a nest is the incorrect term, but that's what I learned with, so I tend to still use it. They're xenoliths. Gotta make sure the rocks are sizes that I can carry out. I do have a backpack that I can carry things out with, but even small things like that, if I could find good nests in them. They don't really look like much out here in the snow, and with the snow blinding the camera, really hard to show what we're finding. So I am getting some xenoliths. I think I'm going to have to take some of these smaller rocks home, break them down, dry them off, clean them up so you can see them properly. Because out here in the snow, I just see silhouettes of everything on the camera. And because it's wet, I just found a log to hide under here so the camera can get some shots. There's a nice little xenolith right there. No gem quality ones yet, they're all small. But for the testing I'm doing, I only need a couple with gem. And I've got a few of those stored away at home for this test. I'm gonna take that one. The actual gem mine is just over top of that ridge right there. This was an area I could get to with the snowy roads, but it's the same deposit. It's this deposit here we'll be mining, but just beyond those trees. I think it's like November 15th today or something like that. So there's a good tidbit of knowledge too for when we start this up as an operating mine of where our window of operation is. Obviously, November, I think we're done. Well, walking on a boulder field with snow on it, I would not recommend to anyone. That is treacherous. I did get 3 or 4 specimens here that once they're cleaned up should work perfect for my experiments. So let's get back to the shop, do that, show you what I got, and explain more what I'm doing today. That was hard going, but I did manage to find a few up there. Brought home some bigger rocks, broke them down into manageable sizes. These I get to play with. And one with a really nice gem pocket in it. So back here on the valley bottom, it's still spring weather out here. No, it's late November. The weather still is nice out here, unlike up in the hills where it's all snowy. So I'm back here at home to finish off some of the tasks I have with this new peridot mine project. The project is moving ahead very quickly. On geological terms, getting permits does take time. Now, the project has multiple people involved. As I've mentioned many times over, my buddy Chris and I have partnered up on making this project. But we also have our good friendly geologist Dave doing a lot of the behind the scenes work, doing the testing of the rocks, the acid leaching, putting together the permits that have to go to the government to get approved to start up this small scale mine site. And it is a team effort. My job here is just playing around with those gemstones to try to improve or perfect our recovery of them, which I got some new things to try today. Now, in our last video, we tested the mineral jig for jig separation, so separation from specific gravity. Basalt and peridot have a very, very, very slight difference in specific gravity. We were testing to see if the jig would differentiate between the two and separate out the peridot crystals. And yes, it did a great job of that. When I was explaining what I was doing to the geologist Dave, he said, "Dan, how much magnetite is in the crush?" And you know, my placer brain thought when I panned it out there was no line of black sand afterwards. So I said to Dave, there's no magnetite here. And then I did a little bit more research and found out that most basalts have a magnetite component in the rock itself. So I briefly ran into the shop, grabbed a magnet, put it over the basalt, and it was magnetic. So I went back and checked with Dave, and Dave said, no, I mean like how much magnetite is locked up in the basalt. And the fact that it's magnetic means there is magnetite in there. It just doesn't crush out like a placer magnetite. So today I want to try using a very strong magnet going over the crush to see if we can use magnetic separation to further refine the peridot crystals so we can get them more clean peridot, less basalt. So for today's test, we're going to be using the very, very high-tech lid from a Tupperware container of the kitchen. We're going to be taking the 1/8 plus material, putting it out on the tray. Now, I have taken most of the good crystals out of this 1/8 material already. These were the crystals I was using in our Christmas special golden gem bags. But what that means is that a lot of what's left over is the basalt. Look at that, a beautiful crystal just sitting there. Now, the strongest magnet I have is this little fishing magnet. You know, you throw it out in the water and it collects people's keys that they dropped while they're swimming. It's a fairly strong magnet. I think it's like a 500-pound magnet. No, the magnet doesn't weigh 500 pounds. It means it can lift up 500 pounds of iron. Let's try that over top of the 1/8 inch crush. There you go. Basalt. Now, one thing I noticed there is I have to actually touch the magnet to it. It doesn't jump up. None of the basalt is jumping up to the magnet. I have to actually touch it to the magnet. But it is grabbing the basalt. Look at that. Well, there you go. It did separate off the basalt chips. Now this is the 1/8 plus fraction, so it is a fairly small basalt chip that the magnet was able to pick up, but what's left seems to be mostly just the peridot clusters and the peridot complete crystals. There is the odd chip left in here, which I could probably grab if I went over it with a magnet again. But I wonder what a stronger magnet would do. Well, let's find out. There were some left. I wonder if the stronger magnet will actually pick them up at a distance. Well, there's one way to find out. Yes. There might be possibilities here. So I was down at my buddy Jason's place, Mount Baker Mining and Metals, and one of the tools he makes is a magnetic separator. It's a conveyor belt that has a rotating magnet over top of it for lifting magnetics up and off of non-magnetics. He suggested trying this ore on there, and I didn't think the magnets would be strong enough to lift the basalt at any kind of distance. But seeing that, I don't know how strong his magnets are. Next time I go down to see Jason, I'm definitely bringing a bucket of crush down there and seeing what a magnetic separating belt will actually do. And after running the stronger magnet over there, I don't see any basalt chips left. Not too bad. Seems like everything that's left is either a perfect clear crystal or one of these crystal clusters. Now, can we scale that? So, running the magnet over the -1/8 sure seems to have cleaned it up perfectly. No basalt left at all. Just peridot crystals. And in my last video, part 2 of opening a gem mine, I had about 1 billion people ask me in the comments if they could buy some of these undersized crystals. Now when we start doing this as a full-blown mine on mine type scale, we're gonna have so much of this material it's not funny. We will be able to sell it by the pound. Right now, I only have a little bit of it, so I'm going to make some little bags of peridot crystals that I can put up on the website if you want a little bit of this material right now. In a couple years, I will have a ton more. I am in the process of rebuilding a old large-scale mineral jig, something that can actually, run volumes through. I think I'll have it reassembled by the end of next week, which will be long before this video goes out. So I should be able to get a picture of it to leave here. I think for the actual mine's sake, we still need something bigger than that, probably a big duplex jig. But this will definitely give us some volume, and it will also allow me to try out a bunch of samples from different sites around for garnets and sapphires and peridot and everything on a bigger scale. So I'm really excited to have this bigger mineral jig on the go, not just for this project. You may hear me say in this video many times over about scaling something. Just because something works at a small scale doesn't mean it's going to work at a mine scale. In my last video, I had dozens of comments saying, Dan, you should try acid. Try to extract the crystals by soaking it in an acid and seeing if it will dissolve the basalt or dissolve the connection between the crystals. Now, I've tried that in the past many times over. I've used nitric, I've used hydrochloric, I've used oxalic, I've used vinegar. None of them will actually break the crystals apart or separate the crystals. And many of them actually discolor the peridot. So even if I could find an acid that did separate out the crystals, I don't know how I would scale that for a mine's sake. Huge vats of acid that I dip the huge rocks in. It's just, it might work, the right acid, the right situation at a small scale, but I can't see how I'd make that work at a large scale. Just like freezing the stones. Sometimes freezing the rocks will actually shock, or the expansion will, what you do is you soak it in water, then you freeze it, the water expands and it breaks the crystals out. But again, I don't think we could scale that to a mine size scale. Might work for one rock that you can put in your freezer, but not at a mine scale. That being said, I am trying a few of those things. I have a friend who is a glass blower who has a glass kiln, and I've given him a rock to throw into the kiln to see if heating it up will actually break the crystals free. I'm also going to try something here. I'm going to try heat up a rock in the oven just to oven temperatures and then drop it in water and see if the thermal shock will break crystals free. Both of those might work, but neither of those could scale. I figured I'd show you the results of some acid baths on these xenoliths. I will take that one there, and I'm going to mix up some fairly strong oxalic acid and soak it in there. See what happens. I've done this lots before with a hydrochloric acid. I've done it once before with oxalic, but I did not really remember. I don't really remember. So let's do it again. Mix up some fairly strong oxalic acid. And submerge the rock. And we'll leave that overnight. After half an hour, you can already see the change. And by the way, that was hot water I had in there. Oxalic acid works best when it's hot. I also have one soaking in some hydrochloric acid or muriatic acid. You can see after about half an hour, the acid has gone yellow. That's because this stuff dissolves iron very well. The iron in there is dissolving into the acid, making it yellow. Now on to the most exciting part of this video. My gem cutter has returned the first lot of my test sample. The peridot from the mine, plus some garnets, some spinel, we got some synthetic sapphire, we had some jewelry made, but the sample from the mine cut, I gotta show you. It is so fascinating to be able to see going from a rough stone to a finished piece of jewelry. Anyhow, let's show you these gems he cut. And if you're wondering why the different bags, they are different people that dug these, or different times I dug them. That bag there was my friend Jordan. She came out last year and dug a whole bunch. This was when Chris and I were up this last year. We got different time frames and different stones, different people. That's why they're separated out differently. This was this last year with Chris and I at the Rock Hound Rendezvous, where he invited all sorts of people up to dig peridot. Now, my cutter Dan is a bit of a perfectionist, and he wanted to cut around the inclusions and flaws. And I said for this first batch, please just keep the stones as big as you can and still get a complete stone out of it. So you'll see some of these, like this one, you'll see 2 spinel inclusions plus a minor fracture. And yes, we asked him to leave those in. He would have chose to cut that into 2 and make better quality stones, but I wanted the bigger sizes. In the future, we will do both for sure. This is a 1.5 carat stone. This guy here, I believe, has no flaws in him. He's a nice looking one. If the surface looks a little funny right now, I've been down in the shop cutting, so I have oil all over my hands, and what you're seeing is fingerprints. These facets are actually perfectly polished. Oh, there is one flaw. Do you see the little spinel crystal right at the very end?
One thing about our peridot that makes it, not that it's unique to ours, but we definitely see a lot in ours, is these little black spinel crystals in the peridot. Well, maybe not. Maybe not in this one. Maybe that was just an optical illusion of the light. I really like the squares and rectangles. Just because they're, not your stereotypical cut. Really like them. These are all probably between half a carat and 3/4 of a carat. Oh, that last one might be a bit smaller than that. I just wanted a round one to show you a round one. That's a little pile of the ones I've shown you on my fingers. We got lots more. There is no way I can show all of them, but I have been saving one to show you. This is definitely the showpiece. That is a 5-carat stone of peridot. Yes, it has a couple of those spinel inclusions inside of it, and one little sort of like spalling fracture, but it is frickin' amazing. There we go. This angle, I think I can show you the little inclusion a little bit better. There's about 3 flaws in this, but again, I asked him to keep the stone as big as possible. I think Dan would have preferred cutting this one down, but I wanted the showpiece. And we had him set a couple in sterling silver to get an idea of what some jewelry would look like.
And I think I'm going to ask Dan for a slightly different setting next time. We are still in the early stages of experimenting with jewelry, and we're going to try a few different things until we find what we want.
Well, Buddy Sibo, these are his. And Jordan, got a bag for you as well.
And in my last video where I said I was going to be sending these over to India, I had quite a few. Many people say, Dan, you should be using a North American cutter. And I understand that sentiment. Yes, it would be nice to keep the business here in Canada, where we're from, or the US for sure. But most of the world's gemstones are cut overseas, whether it be Thailand, China, India, Indonesia. All of the big cutting houses are overseas. Over there, they can turn out thousands of stones at a low cost. The quality might not be the same because they're putting through so many as someone who only does 1 or 2 stones a day, but they do thousands a day. And for the value, it is the right choice right now. If we have any like absolute perfect, world-class gems, yes, we will pull them aside and have them cut specially. But for the volumes we're talking about, we need one of these big cutting houses to do the work for us. And yes, the value is there. Overseas, the labor costs are so much less than over here in North America. We could not afford to have thousands of stones cut here by a local cutter, where over there it becomes much more economical. Over here in North America, it's slower, it's costlier, every facet is perfect. And we will be experimenting both with bulk faceting overseas and the, fine detail of here in North America. This stove is really stinking. That's a stinky rock. Ugh. And not that it has anything to do with what I'm talking about in this video, but the faceter also had some spinel, some garnet, and some sapphire that he was cutting for me at the time. So, will thermal shock break off any crystals? Nope, not at oven temperatures. Well, now we know. Now I've shown you the crystals he cut, but he actually had a fair number of rejects, and this was something else we were testing. We were sending him just the bulk lot of crystals to see what he wanted to cut versus what he didn't want to cut. But I got a plan for these.
Now the crystals that didn't make the cut, literally, I think still have potential. It's just hard to see on some of them whether or not there's a gem inside. So I'm going to take these, throw them all in a rock tumbler for a couple days, and see what comes out the other side. See if any of the stones are facetable once we've cleaned them up a little bit. I have a feeling some of these still have a gem inside them. Currently my rock tumbler has some agates in it that I'm just removing the skin off of with a medium grit, and I don't think it'll hurt to put the peridot in with that. I think they'll actually complement each other right now, the job that's being done. The agates I'm just taking the green skin off of, and that is coming off nicely. A little extra abrasiveness from the peridot will do the job the rest of the way. And the agate won't hurt the peridot. In fact, having the little bit extra impact from the larger items might separate out any fractures that the peridot all naturally have in it to give me a better idea of what is fastable.
Oh no, Dana's home. I may have to return the kitchen to her. Anyhow, let's put these peridot in the tumbler.
Why does my kitchen stink?
I may have been cooking rocks.
Yeah.
I am often asked what we do with those tiny, tiny, tiny gems that we pull from the clusters. Here are some 0.05 gemstones cut from the tiniest of tiny grains from the mine. And we have some plans for these small stones. We've got some jewelry lined up for them. Plus, even for some of the grains before they get faceted, we got a plan for those too. And it's not just the peridot we get these tiny stones in. I often get that same question for my garnets from Garnet Beach. But the same thing, we can cut little tiny stones and still make jewelry from them.
Since it looks like I'm just doing gemstone porn now, here's some sapphires I dug in Montana. I've pulled out the microscope here to show you some of these crystals up close and personal. This is the garnet and the peridot that I was showing you a second ago, making up those small faceted gemstones. Here is some of the peridot small pieces showing you sort of what the fractures and inclusions and everything look like on them. Some of them have just sections that are good inside where the outside's not so good. Some have inclusions. That's a little spinel crystal inside the gem. But lots of these are still facetable gems. You can see in some of these facets here, they still have some of the spinel inside them. I actually asked the faceter to leave those in there. Some of them are crystal clear, yes, but some still have the little tiny spinel crystals deep inside. And I want to leave those there just because they really show that these crystals come from our site, because our site has lots of the spinel embedded in the crystals themselves. And I don't think it takes away from the facets. I think what it does is it just proves they're natural, real gemstones. I think I can actually even take the microscope here and give you some close-up shots of clear stones versus included stones. And some of the included stones have really neat crystal structure inside them. But as you can see, most of them are perfectly clear. There's one with a spinel right on the edge. And sometimes the spinels get little spalling around them because they are different gemstone inside. They sort of heat and shrink at different rates. This spinel crystal you can actually see is a cluster of 3 separate spinel crystals all in one. And you can see how the peridot spalls around it. But this is like extreme magnification. You can see the structure of the spinel itself. This is a small gemstone, and you can see there the spinel is right in the center. It's actually one of my favorite in here just because that spinel is so perfectly formed. There you are. It's not a big crystal at all, but it's got a perfect spinel right in the center. And fingerprints on the surface too. Ugh. I could have cleaned that up a bit better. Now, another idea we've had for removing the crystals from these xenoliths is to use the high pressure water gun
and blast them out. But again, we don't think this is scalable to a mine size scale. It might work for 1 or 2 good crystals. Oh yeah, she gets them out. But we can't do that on the scale we're talking about. Plus, it's only maybe 1 degree above freezing out here right now. This would be a very cold process. Well, while we give the acids time to do their thing, let's check on the tumbler. It's been about 8 hours of tumbling. We're not actually polishing these things, we're just cleaning them up. Now, tip of the day, never pour that liquid down your sink into a bucket and throw it out somewhere else. That'll harden in the trap and just completely wreck your plumbing. We definitely have a few treasures in here. Are you asking yourself right now, how are you going to find all your peridot crystals in there? Because I'm asking myself that. Why do you always come home when I've been a bad boy in the kitchen?
Oh no! Does it smell?
Doesn't smell today.
Is it dirty?
No. I'm seeing some of them in there. Look at this crazy agate that just came out of the tumbler. I know this video is not about agates, but wow. Okay, maybe there's a new focus to this video. Look at these agates coming out of here with their skins cleaned off. Okay, enough with the agates. Let's go find the peridot. Okay, I didn't think that one through very well. Next time I tumble these things, I'm going to tumble them with a size of material that I can just sift out what I want, rather than having to pick through everything. But that did clean these up quite a bit. I think this is maybe a good way to deal with the crystals before we send it over to get faceted. Let them tumble for a day in the big barrel tumbler, clean themselves up the best we can get them cleaned up, and that way the faceters can make a much better determination of what is facetable and what is not. Some of these still have some gemstones hidden inside. I would like to leave this longer, but I've got to finish off this video. As you can see, no crumbling of the gemstones has happened. So this in the oxalic acid, definitely not dropping the gemstones off, and the basalt is not dissolving away at all. So other than cleaning it up, it's not processing the gems in any way. And a little harder to see in the hydrochloric, just because it's absorbed so much iron, it's gone yellow. But again, you can see there's no gems down at the bottom. I'll rinse these off and show you some pictures of how it's changed the look of it. Gotta give them a good rinse. So now that it's dried out some, you can definitely see that it has cleared everything up, cleaned up the stones and everything. But the oxalic acid leaves this white powdery even after it's been rinsed thoroughly. But once it dries, you see this white powdery substance in all the cracks. And the it doesn't really show, but the hydrochloric, it kind of makes the gems a bit sort of paler and yellower. Again, it doesn't seem to be a case of rinsing more. It just seems to be that that's what it did to the stone. Neither of them break the gems free. Neither of them make the gems look any nicer. So even though it sounds like a good way to process these stones using acid, it doesn't really do what we want. So you're probably asking yourself, where do all those stones go? What's the market? Well, some of the very, very best stones will stay here, either in my collection, Chris's collection, or some of the collectors that want themselves the best of BC or Canada gemstones.
Most of these will probably go to Chris's stores and shows. Chris, my buddy Chris, partner in this, runs Silver Cove. That's Canada's largest rock and gem distributor. So most of these stones are going to be going to his stores or his shows, either as raw stones or in jewelry. Once we've exhausted the Canadian market, the rest of the stones will go to the international market. They'll be sold globally, whether it be in Thailand, China, Europe. It doesn't really matter. The global market sells millions and millions of carats of these gemstones every year. And we will end up being just one very small fish in a very large ocean. There is the risk of saturating a market, dropping the prices if you put too much of one stone on the market at once. But as I said, we are a very, very small player, and we don't see that happening with the small amount we have to add to the international market. Our goal is to scale this up slowly, focus on quality, and build a reputation before production ramps up. Chris is already talking with international buyers and international cutters for where these stones may go in the future. It's incredible to think these green stones, mined right here in Canada, could soon be set jewelry all over the world.
And it hit us in the valley bottom as well. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to continue refining recovery methods, finish off that jig, and run lots of test samples through it. Chris is going to continue getting our cutters in line and working on the global market for selling these gems. And Dave has to finish off those permits, get them in, and get our mine approved. Everything's moving ahead nicely. The future's looking bright. Bright green. Okay, leave me a comment below. What do you think about us sending our stones to another country to get fasted, or trying to find a Canadian faster to facet the stones right here? Let me know in the comments below. Also, every good mine needs a good name. Yes, our claim right beside it's called the Jolly Green Giant. But we need to give this mine a good name. Do we call it the Jolly Green Giant? Do we call it the LJR mine? The Lime Jolly Rancher? Or do we go with It Ain't Easy Being Green? I don't know. Come up with some mine names below, because we gotta name this mine. And if you want to see where all this goes, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss episode 4 of Opening a Gem Mine. And if you're interested in any of our gems that we have faceted, check out danhurdprospecting.com. Until the next one.